at some other penalties, stroke algorithm changes depending on your viewpoint and Google's language, because they can be mixed up with Penguin. Some of them are very closely aligned with the aims of what Google's trying to do with Penguin. If you have any questions about this and you don't want to pipe up at the end for some reason, then please use the hashtag #TwistPenguin, and the team will be keeping an eye on that for any additional questions, or obviously anything after I've finished speaking. Okay, so without wishing to teach too many people to suck eggs, and I appreciate many of you are very experienced digital marketers already, this is just a quick overview of why links are important and why Google has decided to target those specifically in its war against spam. And I use the word spam in Google's sense, not so much necessarily what we would consider to be genuine spam. So what we thought we knew about links was basically that Google works on links. It's a citation engine in reality. It doesn't care too much about the content of the pages themselves, although that certainly plays its part. Primarily, Google's algorithm and its calculations of relevance come down to what other people on the web say about the content of the site through the links that they make, through the trust that Google allows those pages to have, the trust that is passed to the page receiving the link, and the relevancy to the topic coming from both the content of the linking page and the page being linked, and most importantly, the actual anchor text used to make that link from one page to another. And that's very important when we're thinking specifically about the Penguin update. So really, Google is a voting system. The votes are the links, and of course not all votes are equal. The value of those links comes down to a number of metrics, the only public one of which we can see is PageRank. Probably not a great part of the algorithm anymore, as it was the original. It's been revised. There's said to be lots of other types of rank scoring mechanisms that Google uses, trust rank and so forth, are terms that are bandied around. But it's the visible one that we can see, and it is still part of the algorithm. It does give you an idea of what Google thinks of a particular page. And when I say thinks, what I mean is how much it trusts that page, how much it thinks that page has value to the web as a whole. And of course, the way that that calculation is made is primarily from the links of the other pages and websites linking to that one. So PageRank flows around the web through the links made from one page to another, internally or external from other sites. And that's what gives you your own PageRank in effect, and it is a per page basis rather than a whole website. There is also said to be domain authority. We don't necessarily see a figure for that when we look at PageRank for home pages, although you could infer that. So we've got that value mechanism, if you like, going around the web for Google, and the other search engines work in a similar way, to be fair. Now, passing value and saying what you trust and what you don't is all very well, but then there is the question of, well, what do I trust it for? What do I trust this website to be about? What kind of content am I likely to find following this link? And that really is down to the anchor text used in the links that are made, and to an extent, the content of the pages and the contextual relevancy between those two. So, for example, although tests have been a little bit inconclusive, it's generally thought that if you were to receive a link from a page which is in absolutely no way relevant to the page providing the link, then you might have a bit of an issue in terms of the value being passed. We think that Google filters that value out, and the root of that is down to many years ago when Google devalued reciprocal linking. Those of you who've been around long enough will remember back in the day, ranking well on Google was a relatively simple thing. All you had to do was find every webmaster you could, explain to them why links were important, and say that you'll exchange links with them, and lo and behold, you'd rise to the top of Google search results. That doesn't work, because normally what that involved was sharing links between lots and lots of different websites which had nothing to do with each other. As a result, you end up with a bit of a problem for Google, whereby everybody's just sharing links around, and it's really messing up the signals that it's getting from the links. So, simple solution: if there's a reciprocal link, and it's very easy for Google to tell when site A links to B and B back to A, all it has to do is use its basic search engine technology to assess the content, the meaning, the topics of those two pages. If it can't see an obvious relationship between them, bang, it's filtering out your search value, your PageRank value. So we think that that generally is how Google is working. Over the years, Google has devalued in some way or other various different types of links. So reciprocals would be one. Quite a few years ago now, a lot of directory links were devalued, more from the sort of the free-for-all, no editorial guideline type directories. We've seen links from low-value sites in inverted commas, again Google's terminology, not mine, and we've seen those kinds of links devalued. I'm thinking there specifically of things like article directories. But all of the time that that's happening, all we really felt in the SEO industry was that Google was devaluing but not penalising. So although those links might not count for anything anymore, and although it might feel like a penalty because you possibly lose rankings because your rankings were based on links that no longer count for anything, Google isn't penalising you for doing anything wrong. It's just taking those links and that value out of your link graph. And by doing so, it reduces your overall value and you would lose positions. And that's generally the way it's been accepted that Google has treated the types of links that it wants to remove from passing value or from counting in its ecosystem. We also appreciate that links over time may rise or fall in value. If you think about the page rank of a page, it's not a static thing. Page rank can go up, page rank can go down, Google can take it away, Google can pretend it's taking away by making it look like it's not there with a blank toolbar, but actually the page is still ranked, so it must have some authority, etc., etc. So we think we know that, so if you get a link today and it's from a page which is a fresh page, it has no page rank and no inbound links, it might not be worth much to you, but if that link stays there for 2 years and the owner of the site of that page continues to get links for their own site, of course that page actually will begin to get value and therefore pass some on to you. So the idea of getting links even though they may not be worth anything today is a valuable one, and again that's something that's been practiced for a long time. The one other thing which Google introduced a long time ago now is the nofollow tag, and as affiliates I expect that's something you're fairly well versed with. This is a way for you as a webmaster to tell Google, I do not want to pass value through this link. That might be for a number of reasons. It might be because you're linking to something in a negative way, i.e. you're writing a very bad review, a scathing review of something, but you need to link to it to tell people what you're talking about. Obviously you don't want to give it value. You might remember, I don't know how long it was ago now, maybe 18 months, 2 years, there was a story of an optician in the States whose SEO strategy was to deliver incredibly poor customer service, get absolutely hammered on every website you could possibly review anybody on, and all the inbound links were pushing him to the top for searches for opticians. That did work. So Google introduced the nofollow tag as a way for webmasters to say, no, do not pass value. And primarily Google did that for their own benefit, because what they said is, right, we are heavily against anybody buying or selling links. If you do that, you must tell us by either turning that link into something that doesn't pass value in the first place, which would be a jump script of the types often you will find used in affiliate schemes, or even on things like Facebook when there's an external link, you don't go direct to the page, you bounce through something else, and actually that strips the page rank out effectively as the link is made. Or, if you're making a direct link, apply the nofollow tag for anything that has a value or some kind of commerciality attached to it, i.e. if you've paid for it or you've sold that link, or if you are getting something in kind, for example, free products to review, and you get to keep the product. So we can use nofollow to stop that value being passed, and all of this plays into a number of the updates that Google's made over the last 12 to 18 months. So I thought I'd cover Panda, although that is kind of last year's news, just because it can be confused with Penguin, potentially, depending when the dates fall. And because Panda, I guess, has been quite an issue for some of you guys. Quick show of hands, anybody here that was hit at any stage in the last 18 months by the Panda updates? Surprisingly few. Well, that's good news, but obviously one or two of you have been. If you're not familiar with the Panda update, as then possibly you're not, the quote at the top is how Google described the purpose of the Panda update. It's designed to reduce rankings for low-quality sites. Now, low quality is obviously a subjective term. We may not consider things to be low quality in the same way that Google does, but nevertheless, what it turned out to mean, as far as we can still tell, is that Google wanted to get those low quality, thin content websites out of its search results. It was facing a lot of criticism for ranking things in the top 10, which when you click through, although they look relevant, actually turn out to be complete bullshit. And that's quite common on sites like eHow and so forth, and it was those content farms that in principle Google was really going after, although you can imagine there are affiliate sites out there which are built on pretty thin content, and not only thin content, but quite often, and this is no criticism really, but quite often content that appears from elsewhere. That's not to suggest copyright theft necessarily, but perfectly legitimate uses of content, text which has been provided for you as an affiliate. but which, by its very nature, may well appear on quite a number of other websites. One of the big things that Panda changed in the way that Google treats that duplicate content is that it went from simply ignoring duplicates by selecting what it considered to be the highest authority website and ignoring the rest, and so the highest authority one is the one that ranks, everybody else disappears. Not really a penalty, just Google creating a filter. It went from a simple per-page duplicate filter to a duplication is now a signal in low quality, and if you've got too many signals or you breach the threshold of low quality, we will penalise your entire site. So it became possible overnight with the Panda update, which rolled out in the States February of last year and here in April of last year, and it's been updated roughly every 6 months or so since. We're on 3.8 as you see on the last slide, point on the slide. What that meant was that if you had some duplicate content pages on your site, however legitimate they might be, then you could face a loss of ranking for everything that your site might rank for. And traditionally, a Panda hit will show you something like a 75 to 80% drop in organic traffic from Google overnight on the day that the Panda update rolls out. Now that hits everybody, from forums to e-commerce websites where they're simply using the product descriptions that the merchants and the suppliers have given to them. Of course, you do that, everybody else using the same stuff. Oh, well, hold on, we've now got 250 websites, all with 200 pages of exactly the same content because they're all stocking the same products from the same suppliers. Now, that's perfectly legitimate, but it's not what Google wants to see. And as a result, although Google did manage to weed out a lot of the low-quality stuff, which includes pretty much all of the article directories that you might have been using for link building, the likes of eZine articles, article dashboard, all that kind of stuff, it wiped all them pretty much out of its search results. Eventually, although not initially, it wiped out the real content farms owned by Demand Media and the like, eHow and so forth. But it also wiped out a lot of perfectly legitimate businesses, from e-commerce websites to affiliate sites to, as I said before, forums and so forth. And those guys, some of them, have gone out of business. Others have tried to tackle the problem by getting rid of the duplicate content, getting rid of pages where there isn't much content on the page at all, getting rid of the pages where stuff might be poorly written in terms of the quality of English and grammar. With too many ads above the fold is another classic signal of low quality for Google. All these kinds of things some people have fixed, and they have made recoveries, but unfortunately they're few and far between. Now the reason I raise that is not because it's really my focus today, but because if you are hit by Panda, and there is no reason why, if you haven't already been, you might be in future, because it is getting updated roughly every 6 weeks. If you think that you fall into any of these potential low-quality traps, then it's something that you need to sort out sooner rather than later. And if you do get hit by a penalty, then there's no reason to assume necessarily that that penalty is whatever Google's latest penalty is. It could be the continued updates to Panda, not necessarily Penguin, which at the moment happens to be Google's latest penalty. So that's really my message on Panda. We've seen a continued war on paid links, if you want to call it that, from Google, and that's been going on for years and years, and they've penalised everybody from the likes of JCPenney and Overstock in the States when they were outed in the New York Times. They even had to penalise their own website when they bought beatthatquote.com over here. 2 days later, Aaron Wall of SEO Book outed them for buying links, and they actually had to remove their own site from the rankings that they just bought because it flouted their rules about buying links. Of course, it came back about 6 weeks later and ranks just as well, but there we go. The reason I've pulled this particular slide up is there was an interesting little case a few weeks ago where a blogger had been receiving link requests from some individual, and this individual was persistent, and it began to bug the blogger, and the blogger knew what he was doing with SEO. And he started to look into, who is this guy? I've told him to bugger off. I don't want to do this stuff. And he keeps sending me emails. It's the equivalent, you know, you keep getting the phone calls or the text, oh, you've got £3,750 in compensation from the road accident you never had 5 years ago, all that kind of stuff. He felt it was the same sort of thing. So he's like, who's sending these things? He was being offered money to publish content written by this third party on his blog, which of course contained links back. Basically, he was being paid to link to somebody else's site. He knew it was against guidelines because he was pretty savvy. He started looking into who was sending them, and it turned out to be an SEO agency in the States called iAcquire. Now, up to this point, every paid link punishment that Google had rolled out was a punishment of the site buying the links, i.e. the client, effectively, if you're an SEO agency. The difference here was, because the blogger had uncovered who was actually doing the link buying rather than the site receiving the benefit, Google didn't actually penalise the client, and we actually don't know who that was. It punished the SEO agency by completely de-indexing them from Google. So you cannot find iAcquire in Google's index at all, anywhere. And that's their punishment, because they were going out breaking Google's guidelines about buying links. So that punishment exists. It's an interesting one because certainly from my experience of having been offered links that I could buy and of seeing other people trying to sell them and clients talking to me and coming with things that have been done for them in the past and what have you. When you look at the places that are buying and selling the links, it ranges from everything from really obvious, oh, I'll give you a link on my blog roll for $50 a month, I've got PageRank 4 type of stuff, through to mainstream national newspaper websites creating articles and linking to people there and charging, I don't know, anything from £1,500 to £2,000 a year for the privilege. But of course, those big national newspaper sites have very large amounts of domain authority, and those links are worth a lot in terms of SEO ranking. So it happens all over the place. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. If you feel the need to do it, if you are already doing it, then I'm not going to morally judge you. Who's Google to tell us what we should buy and sell on the internet? But I would warn you that it is going to come after you one way or another. And more importantly, if you're in a competitive industry and you know that people are not just competitive in a friendly way, but they're competitive in a I will out you and take you down kind of way, beware, because there is a paid link report form specifically in Google Webmaster Tools. And if somebody finds out that you've been doing it, and trust me, it ain't too hard to find out when you start looking, then they will report you. And if the evidence is substantial enough, then you may well get nuked out of Google. So it's a dangerous path to follow. Okay, moving on more specifically to the recent algorithm changes and penalties that Google's been doling out. Shortly before Penguin rolled on the 24th of April, in fact it was during March, a whole lot of people, 700,000 webmasters, received a message that looked exactly like this, although of course the URL was different in each case. The wording was exactly the same. And I appreciate you may struggle to read that a little bit. It basically says, Google Webmaster Tools notice of unnatural links detected on whatever that website is. So this is the unnatural links warning. And what generally happens, although experience does differ, but what generally happens is you receive this message, often a week or two before you suddenly find yourself tanking in Google's search results. The tricky thing about this particular warning, or penalty as it will very quickly turn into, is that it came very shortly before Penguin rolled out, and it's effectively targeting the same things that Penguin is. So with the Panda update, Google was saying, look, if you've got really rubbishy websites, but one way or another you're managing to make that crap ranking my results, then I am going to find a way of getting rid of it. Okay, fair enough. What Google's saying with the unnatural links and the Penguin update is, okay, I don't really care if the content's really good or not. What I'm bothered about is if you're over-optimizing using links for your keywords. So this is not about the content of your pages. This is about the link building strategy that you've had. And what we think the subtle difference between an unnatural links warning and the Penguin algorithm is that, first of all, an unnatural links warning like this, and this is confirmed by Matt Cutts of Google, this is a manual penalty. This is somebody at Google, one of their 10,000 raters, no doubt, looking at your link profile and saying, yeah, there's too much dodgy stuff in here, bing, have your warning, and I've started the timer to see when you're going to get kicked out. And that's basically what's going on here. So the other thing that we think is different about this from Penguin is, apart from the fact it's a manual thing, this is more about the types of links that you've had, or rather the types of websites you're getting them from. So around about the same time, Google started de-indexing a very large number of blog networks like Build My Rank, if you've come across that, various other ones. It was unindexing all of those, and it's those sorts of link schemes or similar types of things which Google's targeting with a manual penalty. Okay, so if you've been engaged in any of that, you might find yourself getting one of these if you haven't already. If you've no idea if you've been sent one of these, then I recommend that you set up Google Webmaster Tools and see if a message appears, especially if you feel that you've lost a lot of traffic from Google. It might be down to this. And these are the sorts of things that we're talking about with both unnatural links and the Penguin update. A little bit small on the slide, I appreciate, but this is a chopped down article off an article website, article24h.com. You know, there's millions of these things around article websites. And in the bio, or the resource box at the bottom, there are very specific keyword anchor text links to that website. They're not a link to the URL, they're not a link to the brand name of that website, they are specifically targeting those generic keywords, in this case slimming pills and slimming products. And that's fine, as long as you don't do too much of it, is basically what Google's saying, because it's not natural to have a large amount of exact match keyword anchor text. And that's basically what the Penguin update is targeting. Just before I move on to Penguin specifically, if you have a manual links penalty, that is, if you've received one of the unnatural links notices, then you'll also find a link in there that says you can submit your site for reconsideration. But if you do, you will have to provide us with enough evidence so that we let you back in. And if you don't, we'll just leave you hanging. So the process here, and I should describe this in a little bit more detail in a moment, is really to clean up your link profile. If you have been partaking in things like Build My Rank or any other blog networks or any other link schemes which basically give you loads of links from a network of websites one way or another, then you're going to have to prove to Google with screenshots of emails, with spreadsheets of all the sites where the links were and have now been removed from. All that kind of body of evidence needs to be put together and submitted to Google through this reconsideration request, with no guarantee whatsoever that you'll get back in. So my tip here is, if you have to do it, be as thorough as you can, not just in terms of the evidence you give to Google, but literally every single link that you've got. Make sure you decide whether that's the sort of thing Google doesn't like. If there's any doubt, get rid of it, and then when you're ready, submit the reconsideration request. So the Penguin update, again, they use this phrase, over-optimized websites. It's really all about those links. And whereas the manual penalty stuff is, we think, mostly about the types of websites you're getting the links from, networks and so forth, Penguin is more about a generic or a general overview of how much exact match anchor text do you have as a percentage of all the links. And if you have too much exact match anchor text, that is, too much stuff where you're obviously targeting keywords specifically with the aim of ranking for those keywords, then you're going to get penalized by Penguin. And we think that a good sort of figure to aim for in terms of exact match actual keywords you want to rank for versus any other kind of anchor text is going to be in the region of 10 to 15%. If you're getting into 25% plus of all of your links using exact keywords that you're trying to rank for, that's not a very natural profile. If you think how most links are made by the average Joe on the web, not somebody that's specifically concerned with SEO or affiliate marketing or whatever, most of those links will be the actual address of the page they're linking to, and the anchor text will be a URL, or it'll be the name of what they're linking to, often a brand or the name of the company or the name of the website, or it'll be a generic phrase like click here, more info, or just a random bit of text which relates to a particular piece of content on the page they're linking to. It will be a massively diverse collection of stuff headed by URLs and brand names. That's what a normal link profile looks like, and that's what Google's expecting to see. And if it doesn't, then you risk falling foul of the Penguin update. A Penguin update which, again, like Panda, updates, we think, roughly every 6 weeks, although it's relatively early in its life to say that. But it's already been through one update. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another one within the next fortnight. So you've got an issue here with the unnatural link stuff and Penguin, which says all of the stuff that you might have done, you might have even called best practice in days gone by, in terms of making sure you use your keywords in anchor text, getting links from all the obvious places where it's relatively easy to do so, free directories, article directories, blog posting, comment spam, that kind of stuff. Stuff which we thought, well, even if Google doesn't like it, it might just ignore it. Actually now, that could bring you down. And we've seen that, thankfully not really with our own clients, but we've seen it when people have come to us with problems, and you can see where the problem's coming from. Too much exact match anchor text, and most of their links from what Google would now call very low quality places on the web. There are quite a few examples of legitimate penalties, if you like, whereby an innocent site, in inverted commas, has been hit, and often that comes down to having site-wide links from a large number of websites. So there was a classic example of, I've forgotten the name of the site, it was a WordPress themed site in Australia, and as many of those sites would do, they were putting a link back to their own website in the footer of every theme that you could download and use from their website. They ended up with 500,000 links with exactly the same anchor text on every page of thousands, probably, of websites. And that tripped the Penguin filter. They were penalised for it. In reality, they weren't trying to manipulate anything. It was just kind of logical that if you're giving themes away or selling them and you want some more business, you put a link back to your own site. So, this kind of stuff has hit web developers as well, who naturally put a link to themselves in the footer of every page of every website they build for people. So there are innocents that have been hit with this, but primarily it's people doing SEO and deliberately targeting keywords. This is what a penalty might look like if you have webmaster tools, or indeed if you were to look at a similar graph in Google Analytics, looking at your Google organic traffic. That's April the 24th. It's not a big site, but you can see even so it's lost 80% of its traffic. You don't want to see that. So, how do you fix it if you get hit? Unfortunately, there is no real quick and easy fix. Indeed, that's the whole point of Google doing this in the first place. The first thing that you need to do is look at your link profile. How much bad stuff have you got in there? So we've got Google Webmaster Tools, from which you can download a list of all the links that Google has found to your site over the web. And there are all the other link tools you might find. Bing has just launched Link Explorer in Bing Webmaster Tools. It's not brilliant. It won't give you any more than 1,000 links, and to be honest, my experience is it gives you less. But it's still another source of free link data. Then you've got things like Open Site Explorer, Majestic SEO, Ahrefs, all that kind of stuff. Other sources of link data. You can use all of those to see what your link profile looks like and what the anchor text is. And again, Google Webmaster Tools also tells you what the anchor text is and which URLs on your site are being linked to from any given website. Once you've established that you have a problem, as you probably will if you've been hit, then it's a question of either removing those links or changing the anchor text at least that you have. If you've received an unnatural links warning, then just changing the anchor text is probably not going to cut it. You've been told by a human being at Google, your links look bad. So just changing the anchor text isn't really going to get you off those networks. They want to see you stripping the networks off the links off those networks to your website. So you'll have to remove them properly. There is a school of thought that if you're hit by Penguin, so there's no manual penalty, then changing the anchor text so that you have a more natural spread of anchor text rather than lots and lots of keywords, that might be sufficient. Although it's rather too early since Penguin rolled for us to say whether that's definitely the case. Personally, I prefer to just get rid of the things in the first place, and then there's absolutely no question that you're doing the right thing. So you might need directory logins, you might need to find contact details of various webmasters, you might need to dig through your own emails for the email exchanges you've had with other webmasters when you've tried to arrange links in whatever form they take, and you'll need to ask them to take those links off. If you are in any of these networks, Build My Rank, Link Partner, Authority Link Network, and many others out there, then I suggest if you are still paying for them, and Build My Rank's gone down anyway, but if you're still in those things, get out now before it's too late if you haven't been hit already. And ultimately, you have a problem here, not just in that if you get rid of the bad stuff, it will all be all right, because of course that's not true. If you get rid of the bad stuff, you've taken links out of your link profile. Links that prior to Penguin were propping you up. So getting rid of the bad links doesn't mean that you're going to pop back up to the surface as though you're a buoy being let go from the surface of the sea. It's not going to happen. You've lost some link equity. You're going to have to rebuild it, and you can't go and get the same kinds of links again to do it, because of course that's where the penalty came from. So you're going to have to build higher quality links with a more varied anchor text, and that's the key really. Mix up the anchor text. Plenty of brand, naked URLs as anchor text, partial match keywords, generic phrases, click here, more info, all of that stuff, so you've got a good spread. Try not to use the same old boring methods of link building. They might be easy, but they're so low value, they probably don't even count for anything anymore, at least 90% of the time. Free directories, article directories, blog roll links, anything that's site-wide is a no-no. All that kind of stuff, you've got to leave that in the past and find more creative ways of getting higher value links. It's quality over quantity. For all those thousands of web directories you might have submitted to at some point, automated or otherwise, now, whatever time that took or whatever money that cost, one good link probably counts for more than all of those links. Not exclusively, there will always be outliers, there will always be examples where there's spam still ranking top of Google. The forums are full of it, and I'm not saying they're perfect in it, and I'm not even necessarily supporting the way they're doing it. I'm just trying to give you an idea. This is what the landscape in search looks like today. Okay, so a quick walkthrough of a simple link audit. Google Webmaster Tools, if you go to the traffic section, you'll see that there's links to your site highlighted in red in the menu there. And that will give you this list of domains linking to your site in order of how many links there are. And you see some websites here are linking tens or even hundreds of times from different pages to this particular website. It's our own website, actually. You can see that on the right-hand side, the number of different pages on your own website receiving those links. You can download that list, and it's the download more sample links option that you want, because download this table only gets you the short version. You want the full version. In a spreadsheet, you'll then have this. If you scroll through the spreadsheet, it will list for you, URL by URL, every page linking to your website. Not just each domain, but every page on every domain linking to the site. As you scroll through, if you see a large number of the same domain, regardless of how many different pages it is, linking to your site, that's one signal of a problem that you've got, because it's some kind of site-wide link. It's likely to be the kind of link where they've all got the same anchor text on every different page. That's probably the sort of stuff that you're needing to be getting rid of. Here we've got Open Site Explorer. You would need to subscribe to use this particular element of their tool. It's $99 a month, I think. The nice thing here is that you can order by amount of anchor text, the anchor text that you have. So you see here, Hillary's Blinds, well-known blind manufacturer here. The anchor text that's most prominent or most prevalent in their links is blinds. It's not Hillary's, it's not their URL, although they appear a little bit further down. By far and away, it's blinds, with over 21,000 instances of that anchor text. And when I checked, it didn't surprise me that Hillary's didn't actually rank for the word blinds, because they've probably been hit for over-optimization of anchor text for that keyword. That's perhaps one thing to note about Penguin. Although it generally leads to a site-wide penalty, we've certainly seen instances where one keyword continues to rank happily in the top 10, and yet 20 of the keywords disappear off the face of the earth. I.e., Google potentially, I think, is penalising on a per keyword basis to some extent. Okay, one of the things that you'll need to do in some cases will be find webmaster contact details. Not always obvious on the website, not always present at all. So using a Whois tool like Domain Tools and so forth will potentially dig out the email address of the actual owner of the domain. How you choose to treat that depends on, I guess, how you view persuasion. If you think a strong arm tactic, and I've seen this done by companies in the States, threatening legal lawsuits if you don't remove links works, then fine, do that. If you think a little bit of gentle cajoling, oh come on, help me out please, this is not good for us all, then fine. You might find ultimately that you have to get a little bit heavy-handed to get people to take action, because at the end of the day it's tedious. Who wants to go removing links from pages, and it's not really their problem? They might see it, so you might need to get a little bit persuasive with that. We've seen in the last couple of weeks a little explosion of link removal services appear on the web as well. And damn me for not thinking of it myself. These work in slightly different ways. The top one here, delete backlinks, is a fairly straightforward one. They've got a plugin with numerous directories on the web, and so you can simply put in your URL, check that the links are to your website, because I've seen them when they're not, and then you pay for the privilege of them automatically removing the links through this plugin network that they have. I'm not suggesting you need to do that, I'm just telling you it's there. There are then various, or three here, link delete, remove them, and rmove.com, which basically trying to take the pain out of link removal by automating it in some way, not necessarily automating it with computers, but as in, well, we'll do the work, our staff will do the emailing, we will get rid of this stuff for you and send you a report. I noticed at least one of them says specifically, and we'll send you a report that you can submit to Google in your reconsideration request, i.e. spreadsheets and screenshots of emails and so forth. So you might want to have a look at some of those. They work in various different ways, monthly plans and so forth. The one at the bottom from SEO Gadget's actually a free tool, although obviously that makes it rather DIY. It's okay, it uses bits of Open Site Explorer. I'm not sure it really adds a huge amount beyond being able to do it yourself with a tool like Open Site Explorer that you're using. But all of these things are out there, and if you do have a problem, it might be worth having a look at those. So all of this has led to a rather obvious debate, I suppose, in the SEO industry. For a long time, people have talked about negative SEO. They've talked about being able to hit your competitors. And Google, in their webmaster guidelines, used to say there's almost nothing a competitor can do to harm ranking. Almost nothing. Of course, now that they're penalising basically down to what your anchor text is in your links, not even necessarily where those links are from, it suddenly becomes perfectly feasible that if you want to take somebody down, all you've got to do is invest in the nastiest, shittiest links with the most obvious keyword anchor text you can find and bung as many of that as you can at your nearest competitor and hope that they drop out during the next Penguin update, which they probably would. And that's led to Google changing its guidelines to say Google works hard to prevent other webmasters from being able to harm your ranking. Yeah, hard, but not that hard. So do be aware, in a competitive industry, as I'm sure many of you are in, that this can happen. I'm not suggesting you do it, and of course, if you do it, who's to say they're not going to do it back to you and all the rest of it? It's a very silly game to get into. But it does raise that spectre that it can happen, and the changing in the wording that Google has suggests that actually it probably can happen quite easily. The counter to that, I would say, is if you've got lots of good quality links, not the sorts of things that Google wants to penalise, it probably will take a very concerted effort to take you down. If you've built up a lot of authority, if you've got a good page rank, you can see links from lots of nice, trusted, well-known brand type pages coming in, you probably won't get taken down. But if you've been relying on the fairly obvious link building stuff that everybody else has been doing, and you're kind of borderline on getting a penalty anyway, it's not going to take much to tip the balance if somebody else jumps in and bangs 1,000 directory links at your site using exactly the same anchor text in every situation. So do be aware of that. We saw today Bing launch a disavow this link tool in its webmaster tools, basically to get one up on Google because everybody's been asking Google to do it and they've been very non-committal. What that means is in webmaster tools on Bing, you can log in and enter one by one links that you have that you don't want Bing to count in terms of SEO. And I don't think it's outside the realms of possibility that within the next couple of months, Google will launch something similar in webmaster tools. And that does remove the issue of negative SEO, because any bad stuff you see coming in, you can just tick the boxes and go, no, not mine, don't count it, and that will solve that problem overnight. But as yet, we don't have that tool in Google. Okay, that must be me up for time now. So, if you want to keep on top of when these updates happen, and Google tells you when they happen, which is important, because if you get hit by an update, you want to know on what date that update happened and see if that mirrors when you lost traffic. That way you'll know if it's Panda, Penguin, or something else. So do follow Google and their Chief Web Spam Engineer, Matt Cutts, on Twitter. Please do follow us as well and subscribe to our blog while you're at it. Thank you very much.